Thank you.
here.
Hey, thank you very much. Thanks for having me today. When I talked to the doctor, Lance, we talked about, you know, basically how did I get here from there, right? How do you go from corporate America to literally jumping out on a limb to have your own business, right? And it's part of a process, and I think really part of that is, you know, telling you my story basically. How did I get here, right? So I feel as though I've been preparing for this my entire life.
Yes, sir.
You know what I mean? It's not something that it may look externally like, wow, this brother just jumped out there and did his own thing. But no, I've been preparing for this my entire life, right? So I had an unconventional childhood, some may say. I was raised in a single parent home, but it was my father that raised us, right? My father raised me and my two brothers. And my mom's died when I was 4. So I never knew my mom. But I always knew my old man, and my old man was always there for me and my brothers, right? So I must confess, I'm a Chicagoan. Don't hold it against me, okay?
Cardinals.
Right.
What's that?
Just love the Cardinals.
What did I say? Don't hold it against me? Okay. But the thing about growing up, and it was inner city, but the thing that, as we know, we have to wear that mask, right? We have to be able to transcend different worlds. And my father was great at showing me that. He showed me that he worked his entire life for the post office. He worked for the public library. And he did a great job. You know, what we would do on the weekends, his idea of fun was going for a ride, right? What we gonna do, Dad? Oh, we're gonna go for a ride. And he would ride us around the different communities and say, you know, basically, listen, those people are no better than you are. They might have more clothes, their lawn might be a little greener, their house might be a little bigger, but they're no better than you are. And so what that did with me was, when I think about my career, and I say career is a long time. That's what I tell young people all the time. A career is a long time. I never had a problem getting a job. Never. I remember walking down LaSalle Street. I was in high school. Walked past a sign and it said, the Midwest Stock Exchange. I looked at the sign, literally, looked at the sign and said, this seemed like it would be a nice place to work. Went inside, and if you don't know Midwest Stock Exchange, they deal in stocks and bonds and trading, financial stuff that as a high schooler, I knew nothing about. But guess what? I filled out a great application. When I got off the bus, my grandmother was sitting in the window and she said, boy, somebody called here from the Midwest Stock Exchange for you. They had already looked at my application and said, you look like someone we might want to have work for us. And throughout my entire life, that's really been my story, is I've never had a problem getting a job. Ever. So I was making, it's funny, during high school per hour, my father had worked for the post office his entire life. And I was making more per hour than he was. And I was in high school. Okay? So I go, after high school, I joined the military. My father had passed away, and I had always said in my mind, if something ever happens to my father, I'm going to go in the Air Force. And that's what I did. I went in the Air Force. I was in the Air Force for 7, 8 years. Uncle Sam paid for my bachelor's degree. I graduated from Park University outside of Kansas City. I got out, when I was in the Air Force, I said, you know, man, this is not something I wanted to do my entire life. That's not why I came to the Air Force. I didn't come to the Air Force to retire. I'm going to go back to the civilian sector. So what are you going to do? I'm not sure, but right now, you know what I'll do? I'll just start selling computers part-time for Circuit City. Circuit City, right? I'm not kidding, man. I started selling computers for Circuit City, but while I was selling computers for Circuit City, I was on that floor, and I thought, how do businesses buy this stuff? Because they don't come into Best Buy in Circuit City and go, I need 5,000 computers, right? So I thought about it. I went to a job fair, had great communications, like I said, never had a problem getting a job. Interviewed with someone. Next day, they called and said, hey, there's a little company called Artisoft. I was in Tucson, Arizona. Artisoft, we're interested in hiring you. Can you come down here for an interview? Sure enough, got the job. I work with Artisoft. I'm managing people and I'm in sales. And that's the thing I learned about myself. I say, know yourself. Nothing happens till a sale is made. I figured out, man, I love sales because I love helping people. Okay? And I love sales, I love helping people, and I love helping business people. Okay? So I work with Artisoft. Not sometimes what you know, who you know. I was there 4 or 5 years. I'm managing a sales team. Microsoft decides to come to Tucson, Arizona. They're going to build a big old call center, lots of folks to help on a product that's their database, SQL Server. They couldn't find enough help in Tucson, so they closed the place down. But sure enough, the girl that I interviewed with for the little company called Artisoft, she now was working in human resources for Microsoft. Okay? She says, guess what? I want you to fly to Seattle and interview for a job with Microsoft. No problem. What time? I go up there, man, and if you ever been to Seattle, you know it rains every day. Well, guess what? It's the skies are clear. It's the weekend seafair is what they call it, is like our air show. Man, they got me a hotel, a car, and just blew my mind. I was like, you don't have to say no more. Just tell me when I have to start. My wife was 6 months pregnant with our second kid, and I interviewed with them, and guess what? They hired me basically on the spot. They said, here's the job, here's some stock options, here's all this stuff we've never heard of before. But guess what? We're moving from Arizona to Seattle. We loaded up a 50-foot Ryder truck. Excuse me. Got up there. I was in Seattle for 2 years. Then Microsoft moved me from there to Memphis. I was in Memphis for 2 years. Then to St. Louis. Okay? I ran the enterprise sales team here in St. Louis and in various other jobs. So I was with Microsoft for a little short of 20 years. Okay? Yes, I met Bill Gates. That's invariably the question you always get. Did you ever meet Bill Gates? Yeah, I met Bill Gates, and he is a great guy. If you know Steve Ballmer, the guy who owns the Clippers, he's also a very good guy. Very down to earth, no airs. You would never know if you ever meet him how much money these guys represent. But the key thing, I say everything I learned in business sometimes I learned at Microsoft, is I did a lot of things. Microsoft was like a buffet. You could eat turkey if that's all you want to eat is turkey. But if you want to do a lot of different stuff, there's tons of opportunity. Okay? And I had a great, great experience. But also a thing that about these tech companies, and I don't care whether it's Microsoft, Google, or Apple, or whatever, Cisco, keep on going, there's not enough accountability when it comes to us and our people. Because Microsoft, as great as it is, the African American population of Microsoft is about 3%. Okay? So that in and of itself, to me, is a valuable lesson. Now, I have an MBA, and I felt like if I only worked at Microsoft, if I only worked in corporate America, because the only thing, you know, they say the only problem with corporate America is it's still in America. The thing is that I wanted the opportunity and challenge for myself to have my own business. I always felt like if I never did my own thing, I would actually be betraying myself. Because I owe it to myself, I owe it to my family, I owe it to our community for that experience. Okay? So to me, the challenge was always there. So it's a natural progression. So next is like, why fast signs? Well, fast signs to me appealed to me, and I looked at it for probably 3 years before I did it. I actually was supposed to leave Microsoft 2 years before I did. They said, no, don't go. Here's some more stock, stay. You know, we need you, what have you. That was all great and good. But I knew, and I told my wife, we are going to do this. Okay? There's some things that appeal to me about fast signs, and I won't, you know, belabor you with all of them. But one, I'm a corporate guy. They have an existing model template, a franchise model, right? It's a franchise. There's 600 fast signs around the globe. There's 400 in the US. It's a $40 billion market, and the product is ubiquitous, okay? We deal in everything from business cards to electric signs on the building and everything in between. If you need to say something, own something, I can help you, okay? So that, when I think about Microsoft, when I think about software, the lessons that I learned about how Microsoft bundles, how they package stuff, how they do whatever, I'm taking those same lessons, because I didn't forget all that stuff, and I'm building those into my own business model as well, okay? It's business to business sales, okay? We deal very, very rarely with consumers. We mostly deal with business people. And that's a language that I talk. It's a language that I love, because I love sitting down talking to business people, okay? Business owners, decision makers, okay? I saw an opportunity in the St. Louis market. So, of course, St. Louis, not the same size as Chicago, but I use Chicago as an example. St. Louis, when I opened my store, we're the 5th store in St. Louis. There are 4 fast signs in the St. Louis metropolitan market. I'm the 5th. In Chicago, there are 25 fast signs. There's, 30 fast signs within 25 miles of downtown Chicago. Okay? Because you say signs, but it's really visual communications. Okay? We're doing all sorts of stuff that people wouldn't even believe. And I'll tell you about some of those. We're the only fast signs in the city. Okay? So I intentionally put the fast signs in the city. We're on Lindo in between Sarah and Vanderbilt. Across the street from McDonald's.
In this city?
In St. Louis. Yes, sir. We're the only fast signs that is minority owned in the state of Missouri. We're the only fast signs that's veteran owned in the state of Missouri. Okay? Like I said before, it's a broad, ubiquitous product line. And also, I think that this industry, there's a digital transformation that's taking place. Okay? And we're going to be part of it. Okay? The thing I love also about the Fast Signs model, Fast Signs doesn't set your prices. Fast Signs doesn't tell you who you have to partner with. Fast Signs doesn't tell you even what time your store has to open, right? You are running your business, and I love that. Coming from corporate America, wanting to have my own business, but also wanting a framework. Okay? So that is kind of what excited me about it. But again, the opportunity to work within our community, have a business, give people opportunities. We're hiring people. I got graphic designers. I'm looking for salespeople. We're working on some amazingly exciting projects. we're getting ready to wrap a locomotive down in Mount Vernon, Illinois. Right now, there's a company called NRE that builds locomotives in Mount Vernon. I never heard of them before. They called me and said, "Hey, can you guys wrap a locomotive?" Sure, we can wrap a locomotive.
You got a locomotive, you can wrap a locomotive.
That's right. But that's it. I mean, really, when I think about it, I did some exciting things with Microsoft. But like when I used to hire people, and I hired a lot of folks that are now sitting over there at the Cortex, right? But the thing is that we used to say, are your best days ahead of you or your best days behind you? And I feel like with this opportunity, because like I said, I never had a problem getting a job, I can always go back to working for somebody, right? But my best days are ahead of me with this. That's how I feel. So, any questions? My address is 3949 Lindo. In fact, I'll make sure everyone gets my card. Okay.
Just about to tell us some of the things that you do.
Oh, yeah. So whether it's digital displays, whether it's wrapping vehicles, whether it's as I mentioned earlier, man, and it's exciting when I can drive around the city and see our work. Like, you know, that's an experience that I never had when I was working for someone else. When I can drive past something and go, man, I put that there, right? We're doing projects, so we're putting up a 6x9 digital electronic message board in Delwood. It's going 14 feet in the ground, or 14 feet in the air, 8 feet in the ground.
So you manage the sign, you don't just do the digital piece?
We can manage the content for you. We put the sign up. We just now also, just brought in some new equipment to do direct to garment t-shirts. So if someone needs I need 5 t-shirts today, we can help you. You know, so like I said, you know, if you need to say something on something, I can help you.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yes, ma'am.
What do you see the industry and 10 years on the digital format, electronic format as it represents your business?
I think that we're at the infancy of what the sign industry is going to do with that. I think location-based services, we're all walking around with them in our pockets. It's going to be almost like Born Identity or one of those science fiction movies today where when you're sitting at the bus stop, they will be advertising to you. It's going to be target marketing because the technology is there already. Now, I think that is going to be a huge within the industry, whether it's kiosks, whether it's electronic message boards. When you are driving down the freeway, there's a company called Blip that's doing the giant billboards, right? The marketing is going to be targeted towards you.
Has the St. Louis community changed its ordinances on electronic signs? Used to be very iffy.
Right.
Yeah, that they would not approve electronic signs because of A, B, C, D, and E, because of their old ordinances. Where do you see you helping them with that learning curve?
Oh yeah, so I think that as an example, the treasurer's office, we're talking to the treasurer's office right now about putting up a very big sign on 11th and they own a property next to a parking garage. Yeah. So it's coming.
Okay.
And I think it's one of these things where you can try to hold it back, but you're not going to be successful. I think St. Louis, like all the other municipalities, are going to step up because there's just too much opportunity there. There's advertising dollars at stake. There's businesses because businesses have a choice. Hey, if I can't sell my product and advertise in the city, guess what? I'm gonna have to go somewhere else. It's forced. So I see St. Louis having more flexibility in that area. Yes, sir.
Seattle, Memphis, Arizona, Chicago. Why did you decide St. Louis?
Well, I'm a Midwest guy. At the end of the day, I like the West Coast. I've traveled to the East Coast extensively. Chicago's great, but man, Chicago is expensive.
And it's cold, bro.
Yeah, and you know, Chicago's great when you're up there on Michigan Avenue, you know, when it's not so great when you have to live, you know, in Iowa almost and commute into the city. People ask me all the time, do I see myself moving back there? I don't see it. I love St. Louis. St. Louis is where I raised my family. St. Louis is where I have my business. And I love the Midwest. Yes, sir.
I've been interviewing a lot of like graphic people over the last week because we're ready to make a buying decision.
Okay.
So my question to you has to do with your abilities to handle large scale orders repeatedly. Like so in the next 50 days, I have some like 5,000 orders that come in at one time, and it'll have people be wanting business cards and all kind of stuff. Like, I'm just asking you how fast can you ramp up?
The thing that I like about the Fast Signs model is it does give you access to some incredible partners, right? So we can build a website or e-commerce site for you. It's one of the things we do for like Better Family Life, you know? So when their folks need or want business cards or tents or retractable banners or anything, they
All that.
go right to a website, place the order, it's in their hands.
So then you could put up a site,
Yeah,
put our skin on it,
exactly.
and the orders coming through, and it looks like they're ordering it from us, but you guys fulfill it.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I know you said that in Microsoft you learned a lot about business. What was the things that you learned the most? What did you pick up the most?
So,
Now.
the thing that I would say that I learned the most with Microsoft is one, you really, really have to love customers. Now, the customer is why we are here.
Yes.
This is what I tell my people, you know. In business, you have to be very, very careful. You know, yeah, you Mr. Business Owner, you're important, you think you're somebody. The customer is the reason why we're doing this stuff, right? We have a deliverable, a customer. In our business, it's all about deadlines. If you don't like dealing with high pressure, deadline folks that, you know, because their boss asked them to get something, and guess what? They didn't do whatever they need to do, but our job is to help them, right? Yeah, a lot of times, you know, I get, you know, my design guys are, man, the customer's art isn't right, this and that. It's like, I said, never, ever, ever. We have it up in our, you come in and visit me sometime. Even if you're not looking to buy something, just come visit us. I got sayings all around the wall. I got all this stuff around. And we have some stuff that is unconventional on the wall too, right? And one of them is never, ever, ever, ever blame the customer. Ever. Because it's a mindset. Because if you go down that path of blaming the customer, the next thing you know, you're gonna start thinking, well, you know, this arrogance comes in. I don't really need them. And you know what? We'll be okay without them. And you know, let them go across the street. No. Don't let that seep in. And that's in Microsoft. It might not be evident all the time, but that's one of the things that those guys always preach. Never, ever, ever blame the customer, okay? Everything's negotiable as well, okay? Don't be so hard and fast. Think about solutions, right? Think about solutions, not how can I be right, you know? No, think about solutions. So that's one of the two things that come to me. But then, like I said, I'm a sales guy. I'm a sales process guy. I'm a big solution sales guy. Pain, power, vision, value, and control. Make sure you're returning value to the customer. What is the value that I'm bringing? There's a reason why they stopped in your place. There's a reason why they picked up the phone and called you. What is it? Make sure you maximize that and don't sell yourself short, because it's maybe a very, very good reason they like Joe Schmo across town, but guess what? Joe Schmo can't deliver. You can. So I'm willing to pay a premium because you can deliver.
Yeah.
Don't underestimate that. Your value. Know what your value is.
Let's give Steve a hand, please. Our next dynamic speaker is a man who needs no introduction, but he's a motivational speaker. He headlines Man Building 365, and we want to be as attentive to him. Amen. As we were to Steve. So, without further ado, give Mr. Delbert Thurman a hand, please.
No, I thank you, folks. Dr. McCarthy, I met him several years back. I managing several restaurants in St. Louis. Currently, I'm managing Bait on 4239 Leonard Boulevard. So if you haven't been into Bait, definitely come see me. I'm in the building. I met Dr. McCarthy one day. I was managing Brio and Frontenac. You might have passed through Brio and Frontenac. That's right. I see you all the time. Come on, I see you all the time. You might have passed through Brio and Frontenac and you saw me. You couldn't miss me, right? For the last 13 years, I was one of a couple of brothers that was walking around in that building. It is what it is, right? But it really served to be an incredible opportunity, you know. And it was one of those things that, for me, navigating was always very natural. Born in Biloxi, but brought up here in St. Louis, and something very different from the transition into those environments when you come a little deeper south. St. Louis is fairly southernly influenced, right? But it also has some northern sort of idealistic sort of principle about it, right? Because it traditionally presents itself in a very, you know, southern perspective technically, like from a voting perspective. But when we moved up here, you can kind of feel it.
Make it plain, bro.
I'm just trying to tell people, trying not to step on people's toes. You know what I mean? I'm not here to tell you how you feel. I'm just here to tell you how I got where I am. When I met Brother McCarthy, was because, like I said, I was managing the Brio and Frontenac, and I was letting him know. He was like, hey, he asked me what I did because I teach and design etiquette courses for the Archdiocese. When the Archdiocese approached me about 5 years ago, right? And so they approached me and they go, hey, when I spoke to, I ran into a young lady that came into my restaurant, Taria Jones, and she actually was teaching a program that she was contracted with them, and goes, hey, you should probably talk to my director. She would love to speak to you about the way you seem to move in hostile environments like you were meant to be here, right? And it's just more mindset than anything. Anyway, I spoke to the director and I was very curious. I go, why would you want to teach African American young men European or, you know, international etiquette. It didn't quite make sense to me because I go, it doesn't make sense necessarily to try to teach someone to be or to try to mimic something that they're not. They really needed something very different. So I go, hey, I'll teach an etiquette course for you, but you gotta let me come from where we're really coming from. You know, it's gotta be plain, it's gotta be about us, right? And it's gotta really address those issues in your own environment. And people are sometimes confused about, you know, they go, when you hear etiquette, and people go mostly, you hear dining. When people hear etiquette, they think it's something to do with the pageantry of understanding the placement of utensils on a table, right? Or how one should proceed entering and exiting a building or something like that, right? Those sort of social graces, right? And that's a small part of it. But what etiquette is mostly is a code of conduct.
Mm-hmm.
It's mostly that. 98% of it is a code of conduct. And it has to do mostly with the social contract, right? And most people never get that far. And they don't understand that the way that we behave socially is agreed upon. It has to do with class and position, right? It has to do with some of those inner workings of societies, some of those polite ways that we have chosen or been taught to behave, right? That we are able to get along in said society, right? And all of those things are agreed upon in every interaction that you have, right? So when I sat there and I'm sitting in, a brother from Mississippi, I'm sitting, in the archdiocese talking to these folks, and all these folks looking at me and they're going, okay, sir, you can do that. You can go into De La Salle and teach these young African American boys about etiquette from an African American perspective. Obviously, there is no such information. It didn't exist. All right, so I had to write it. So producing the information took me in a lot of directions, right? I had to go to a lot of sources. It really is eye-opening when you really when I began to peel back the layers of some of the sort of micro infraction and agreement that is made, some of the concession that African American people have had to make to exist in the communities that they exist in, right? And so much of that exists mostly in the communities that we're from. It isn't so much necessarily that the issue with surrounding communities have with you necessarily. It really more was an inter sort of conflict and dialogue with yourself. So as I dug in the information and obviously I produced it, I took it to them and I was 100% they were going to say no. Because some of the language is very plain. With the way my program opens, the young men actually, there are 4 speeches that I have them use, and I have a partner of mine that actually has, we bring in turntables and we actually bring in a booth, and they actually recite these speeches. And one is from Marcus Garvey, one is from Malcolm X, and one is from Martin Luther King. And so I have them recite that verbiage, but I have them recite that verbiage to the rhythms that they know. Because one of the things that was very evident to me about some of the research that I did, most of it had to do with language. Most of it had to do with how people connected to what they said and why they said it. Because it was one of those things from an etiquette perspective. Violence is always closely underneath the surface in communication. It's one of those things when I would move and talk to brothers, it would shake me a bit that brothers wouldn't be comfortable with each other. You know what I mean? That not just saying what was on their mind, but they were always very careful not to offend, because it could go either which way. You know, that something that was said to you verbally could cost you something as dear to you as your physical body, but that the word you would use could cause something like that to happen. It was incredibly, sort of unsettling to me, and I go, that in itself when I made the pitch to the directors, some of that people that I was speaking to didn't understand. They didn't understand why. How could someone be so upset about something that was said to them? You know, and it's hard to look at people and you go, no, you know, because it's very possible where I'm from, where these kids are going to school at, which is why some of them don't return to school.
That's right.
Because something as small as a verbal interaction could cause them to lose their physical bodies in an interaction.
You said my mom.
100%. And next thing you know, it has turned to a place that all of their parents' hopes and dreams, all their sacrifices, all the lunches, all the school products bought, all the coats and shoes, all the sacrifices and staying up late have just been lost
Yes,
sir.
on a verbal exchange
Yes, sir.
at a bus stop waiting to get home from school. And so as I talk to them, I go, hey, no, the necessity, I go, the problem here is when I go, I can't talk to these brothers from that perspective because the problem is with what they're saying, they have no anchor. Like with what's being said out loud, they really have there was no investment in it for them. Because they don't have a connection to that verbiage. They don't have a connection to it. They use it because it's social currency. They have to, because they have to eat. They have to find some way to get along. But it's one of the concessions that they've made, right, to exist in this space, right? And so because of that, our conversation went to a place, and you saw the light bulb go off in their heads, and they went, so what are they supposed to say? And most of it for me, when I, in my program, in my etiquette program that I do with young men, is that there's a level of social shame and forgiveness that has to get worked through, right? It's an incredible thing to see a young man deal with his insecurity, socially, publicly, in front of people, because he understands to a degree. He doesn't have control of himself or his environment or much else that is around him. So that level of helplessness, right, is present in that interaction with that exchange verbally, which is why that violence is always there, because it's all that he can't control. And in that moment, he wants to take out his frustration that he knows he doesn't have control of himself or his environment. So as I did my pitch, and I'm talking to these folks, and I'm just like I am with you, like, hey, you can't put me in front of someone that looks like me, tall, and make me say to them things that they know aren't really for them, not necessarily because I'm telling them to do and say something to appease you, you know, to play. That's not what they need, right? What they need are tools. What they need are to be empowered. What they need to do is unravel themselves, right, from all that they are already raveled in, right? And that they are entangled in so much, they don't know what's up and what's down. And that's why they're frustrated, because they're upset. And so the pitch went, like I said, the pitch went well, and they gave me the 8-year deal, and they go, hey, we want you to do this, and we want every person to be mandated to go through this program that comes through our school. Every young man we want at De La Salle to come through your program, because we want to give them the verbiage. So for me, the program is designed to give to first and foremost, because I think it's an important position in connection, one, to the word. We are very rhythmic people. We are people we don't quite even understand intrinsically what rhythm means to us, with the loss of language, with the loss of the history of why things that are rhythmically to us we use to still communicate and to speak one to another from far distances about why that rhythm was important to us. So my program is all rhythm based. It's based around that rhythm of communication and movement, body language, and facial structure, because I want you to make it plain, right? And so the program is designed to help young men so that they don't have the issue in making themselves obvious to people. And I say it to people that people have to figure you out. You're not making it plain enough. And if you're confusing people, then they're not going to connect with you. And if they're not going to connect with you, then they are going to move in a different direction with their intentions, with their opportunity, with anything that they have of value. Because if you make people nervous, even those people that look like you, they just don't understand what your intentions are. And it can be as something as simple as shaking another man's hand. And just that basic element of putting yourself in a position where that you're willing to extend yourself first. That you don't have to wait for someone to extend themselves. It is that shows real strength, right? It's telling another man that looks like you that you love him. It's knowing that you understand that socially, the intimacy between a man and another man has nothing to do with sex. That it has nothing to do with it being something of some homophobic sort of issue. The love that we have had for ourselves has been changed to a degree that we have reflected it in a way that comes through somebody else's lens, somebody else's perception. And so for me, the program really was designed and is designed for young men to rediscover, right, what it's like not necessarily to always be so competitive. I do a LeBron James Jordan comparison in my class, and the fellas always love it because we talk about the shoes that they have, because everybody's wearing $250 shoes. Even I think it's awesome. Obviously, I don't know what that life is like. I got 13 kids in my family. Grew up in Mississippi. We had a farm. You know what I mean? I got up early in the morning. We had chickens and goats, and it's not that I don't have that life with $250 tennis shoes. Obviously, my son does. I'm not saying he does spoil, but I'm just saying that I do this challenge with them, and we talk about the lens that we interact with socially, right, one to another. And we talk about Jordan's lens, the competitive lens. And people don't always catch that. Jordan's competitive lens is one of those things that how he is and how he was fed to us in a way made us feel like there was a shortage, right, of accolade, of opportunity, that this ability to be cooperative one to another wasn't a strength. It was all about being singular. It's about there can only be one greatest, there can only be one best. There's this sort of shortage of I have to compete with you. I could be alpha. So for me to be alpha, right, I'm the greatest of all time. There can only be one. And that is a myth. That doesn't exist. There is no shortage. There is no shortage of opportunity. There is no shortage of men who can exist in a space, and I don't have to be in comparison to you. That doesn't even make sense. There is only one me. There is no comparison to me. We are more alike than we are different. And when I do that, when we talk about the LeBron James factor, it's because you had a person appear on the scene that is more cooperative than he is competitive. Because the passing of the ball became essential. The uplifting of a community and it being about more than just yourself, but also seeing yourself being able to benefit collectively, right? We can all win at the same time. Now, I don't have to put you down necessarily for me to be lifted up. That doesn't make sense. We are only as strong as the weakest link in the chain, right? And so that philosophy is one of the lessons that we move through in that verbiage. The one thing that I noticed is that young guys don't know how to say, and the young men in my program, they can't say how they feel. They don't have the verbiage. And so if you don't have the verbiage, it's tough for you to see something. You can only see what you have the words for, even though you might notice it. But if you don't have the verbiage, you can't articulate it. It doesn't exist in the real world to you yet, because even though it might roll around in your subconscious, but it won't exist to you. You can't touch it. It isn't tangible to you because you don't have the verbiage for it. And until you get the verbiage for it, and someone teaches you how to speak to yourself, of yourself, right, about yourself, with someone else, then you won't exist in a space with someone You will only exist in competition to them, in conflict with them or that thing. And so the verbiage is essential. And so the program for me, like I said, for the guys is that. And so when me and Dr. Lance McCarthy are sitting at the bar and I'm talking to his wife, and they come in all the time, and he's like, no, you need to take this on and expand this. And I go, Dr. Lance McCarthy, I appreciate it that you're on the road all the time and you want to travel the universe. For me personally, and I say this to people all the time, I go, it really is a love for the people. Like, I go, until you love the brothers on your block, you can't love the brothers across the country. You just can't do that. That's just not my vibe. And I appreciate that. And because I got love, for the brothers in Chicago and in obviously in Gary, Indiana. And I got for the brothers down south. Like, I got love for them all. But I know the brothers on my block are suffering too. You know what I mean? And how dare me walk past them and ignore their suffering, so that I can obviously be on some other stuff, because I'm all about some, uplifting of myself. But Dr. Lance McCarthy is a visionary. No. That brother's a visionary, and I respect him and I appreciate it. So he's like, no, you can help more people by putting yourself in a place to where that you can be in all those places at the same time. That's why you have to be in rooms with people that are smarter than you, that see things differently than you. And so I go, okay, Dr. Lance McCarthy, show me. You know what I mean? Because on the humble, it isn't necessarily that I am not like the brother in the back, like he goes, no, I know how to scale things. That's why he sees that, right? That's not necessarily, my gift. My gift is something else. Like I said, I've been fortunate enough that someone showed me something as a young man, right? How to hear, how to listen, right? And that thing I want to share through my program with other young men, with other young women, with the community at large. And when I usually tell it to people, it's because I go, there isn't a place that etiquette isn't present, right? And so it isn't necessarily just from me to you necessarily, but it should exist between you and me, you know what I mean? Because in this room there's a lot of love, right? But no matter the color of the person, right, there's still a way for you to have a disagreement with a man, a disagreement with a woman, right? A disagreement with a person. Like, you can say what's on your mind, you know what I mean? Without diminishing yourself or someone else, right? It doesn't necessarily, there is a way to handle yourself that no one has to necessarily be put in a position that they have to be diminished because you felt what you felt, because it is what it is, right? Because that's just truth. And no, we're not here to wrestle with the truth, we're just here to expose it, right? And so that's the thing that is present and that is taught, that I try to impart on the young men, that there's a level of honesty, respect, and consideration that must come through in all that you do, in all that you lay your hands to. So we call the program Man Building 365. And so that's the story.
Questions?
What's your, you say you own a restaurant?
I'm currently at Bait on 4239 Linville Boulevard.
B-A-T.
B-A-I-T. Formerly I was with Brio and Frontenac the last 13 years. The brother Kalen, and if you might know brother Kalen, who owns the spot over there, he was not trying to take no for an answer. You met young brother Kalen. He, once again, very driven young man. He was like, no, what you need? And we worked it out. So he was like, I need you. So I'm in the building at Bay. The program is still currently, this is the last year of my initial contract with the Archdiocese. So I have the right to do with the program what I like, which is why me and Dr. McCarthy contacted me. He goes, no man, 2020 is your year. You need to begin to get out here. But I've taught the program since at the middle schools and schools around.
So are you looking for, what kind of referrals can we give you?
I'm definitely open to the collective sort of response from people, whatever is organic from people, right? So if there are people who want to reach out to me in some way, who want to be partners, because the one thing that has to happen with the next phase of where I'm at with this program is that I'm with these gentlemen an hour a day, right? And so 23 hours a day, they're themselves. They have to travel from me, and I can control that environment, but that's not real, technically, right? The environment dictates the etiquette. So if you're down on the north side, right, you like you said, you gotta be able to switch up, and so you know what I mean. So technically, there's a part of you that can't be available. You feel me? And so when you're in Frontenac, it's a different switch, right? You're on the south side, it's a different switch. So all that code switching, sometimes you get caught, right? And so you don't always know what's what. And so a little bit of you is left in all that code switching. So I understand and know you gotta simulate that. Like there's a part of this that's about reps. Because the truth of it is you play the way you practice. You know what I mean? So
come on here.
No, just real.
Yes,
right?
sir.
Just real. So you gotta give these young brothers, I need partners where that you can take these, not only these brothers, but you gotta take them, put them in places where those skills are actually being used and fortified in real time. That they're real to them. And because I would do an exercise where the brothers would get them ties and they get blazers when they leave my course, right? It's such a beautiful thing when you see a young man get dressed for real the first time. Like for real. You know what I mean? And I'm not talking about, I got no problem with J's or wearing some LBs, because I got love for those too. But the way you look indicates really to a degree what you are, what your intentions are, where you're trying to go, what you're trying to accomplish. And like I said, I know brothers who got millions of dollars and they walk down with Timberlands and t-shirts, and I get that. But not everybody's ready to move like that and accomplish what you can accomplish, because there are levels to that, right? And so for me, they've got to go in some places and in some spaces, right, with partners in the community. You know what I mean? That they understand, because I've partnered with a young lady who teaches dance, and a lot of these young men, they didn't know how to touch a woman or touch a girl appropriately.
Shut up.
Like you just didn't understand how to be in the space of another person and ask for consent, right? And asking for consent was like a new thing. You know what I mean? Like, and so, and if you don't, but if no one ever teaches you, obviously, we teach shaving. There's nothing that's left out. Like, it's just reps. You know what I mean? You actually gotta have, and I say this to the young men, I say this all the time, I go, if it's the first time you've said something out loud, which is why I say I start the course with something of value, things that have shaped us, words that have shaped our community. But I want you to feel what it's like to say those words and let them mean something to you. Because as a man, every time you open your mouth, it should have value.
Hallelujah.
And so if you don't ever say anything of value, right, with your own tongue, then you don't feel that value internally, right? And so that's what I need. That's what I need. So they've got to exist in their community in a way that's real, right? They got to be able to move in those spaces like not that they want to run, because you don't run from nothing. You walk your streets like you walk your streets, but there's a way to be in your community and be of value to yourself and those around you, right? And that's just real. So those partners in those areas, that's what I'm talking about. For real.
I just like to add to, I adopted 4 children from Martin Luther King and Walton in the early 2000s. And to expound on the things that they can't say, when their parents are chemically disadvantaged on all levels. And that's a word that we implemented within our family. Because we're not going to talk about the disadvantages, we're not going to talk about the chemicals, we know what happens.
Yes.
So, I just want you maybe to think about in your lecture, the need for adoption.
Okay.
The need for not walking away. Because you said, I give you that hour. And I gotta go back to my community. But the inception of water, heat, basic utilities, up on something that you want to grow is a necessity that they don't have. That when you go home and you get in your nice car and your fuzzy little environment, they don't have. So in that, as you approach your natural approach, there has to be a stance to take on an individual from some environment that needs to be adopted. It can be a shared adoption with the parent, but in the 2000 African American Men's Associations or whatever, the lectures don't work. What has to happen is the adoption. To take them on a plane, to let them see the ocean, to let them see the water, to bathe in the water, to drink in the water, changes the life. So in that, in my adoption process, two of my siblings worked at the highest levels of government they could ever work. Protecting Condoleezza Rice, from Martin Luther King and Walton. They are the chief linguistics officers for the U.S. So in that, it's water, it's gas, it's light, somewhere to sleep so that I can grow my mind. So I would like for you to expand upon that when you're with our brothers, to take one of them in and not leave me in a lecture as if that lecture impounded my life.
I feel it.
So I just need you to expound on that because that is what I believe in.
100%.
So within the Garveys and whatever, we have to take care of our own.
100%.
So carve that out where that is a process.
Right.
Because if you don't take them home to live with you, they're going to die. They're going to die. So at Martin Luther King and Walton, if you know where it is one of the roughest neighborhoods. All they wanted, food, shelter, and heat. So I just like for you to take on, within I hear you, with Dr. McCarthy, there's that other level of you gotta take me. So the ones that I took will now reach back. They're speaking 7 to 9 languages from Martin Luther King and Walton. That was all with water, shelter, heat, and the other thing was love.
100%.
100%.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
That's a lot of work.
It's not a lot of work. You eat every day?
What was that?
You eat every day?
Am I what now?
Do you eat every day?
Do I eat every day? Oh, yes, ma'am.
Do you okay.
Yeah.
And she's right. But what was your point? You said it's a lot of work. It seems like a pretty large undertaking.
No, I got 8 kids. I know all about the work. And I was gonna say that what the sister was saying, that I'm in agreement with that part. You know, the whole piece. I remember I used to work for St. Louis Caring Communities, and one of the cool things about that program was how we embraced the child at the school, and then found out we did the intake of the whole family.
Right.
We found out that if there was some substance abuse, and we had drug counseling for that, and then we found out if there was any gang activity or drug activity in the community. That was my part, anti-drug gang task force coordinator. Then I shut down 71 crack houses in the process. But the thing is, I'm still on gang file to this day, right? I raised 8 kids. I'm a successful entrepreneur and done a lot of cool stuff. I'm on gang file. What got me out of active gang life and drug dealing was what the sister just said. It wasn't that I needed to be adopted into somebody else's house, though. I needed to be adopted. My father died when I was 16, so I needed to be adopted into some other fatherhood.
And that's where, because I appreciate what the young lady said, because she's not wrong, because she's coming from that perspective.
I got them from the street of them walking up saying, "Can you buy me something to eat?
No, 100%.
Can I pump your gas?"
And you're not wrong.
Well, we saying you're right.
But right, because you're wrong, because you're right. But from a micro perspective,
Mhm.
right? From a macro perspective, he's right as well. Like, so neither of us are right. And so you're absolutely right. So when I said, what the brother was like, hey, so what do you need? I go, when you say partners, when people say that village, that sort of theory, men move differently. And there is a level of structured independence that needs to be there, right? It can't necessarily be spoon-fed to you. The man must have the desire to get up himself and go get it. So some of that coddling is our issue in our community. And so for us, for that man, he himself must have fire in his belly because he's hungry. He got to get up and go get said food, right? And so some of that isn't so much that he should know that he has a partner that he can go eat with, that he can go hunt with, that he can go and get said thing that he needs. But he does have to get up. No, that's what I'm saying. But he got to get up. But even as a small child, and I'm like I said, I've never been a woman, but as a man, what my fathers have taught me, they go, hey, you are not going to learn how to be a man as a man. You learn to be a man as a boy. And so it is a practice.
Yes.
And so it is something that you do. It's something that you do as a practice. You just get better as you age through those reps. So the call to you as a man is never any different. And you see men do this with their young boys. You see them never speak to them like babies, but always like I'm talking to the inner man in you. Because I promise you, when you hear my voice as an older man, it will sound the same. It should never be woo woo. It'll always be you are strong, you are powerful, you are competent and capable. And so that level of competence, right, is what was trying to be taught, right? So that's why I say no partnership. That's what I'm talking about, because because what he needs is a plan and a map, right? But because on the real, you can't remove every obstacle, right? You can't remove that because danger is real. Fear is a choice, and so you cannot move around. Because what we're saying, we're only talking about what we can do, not what an idealistic sort of environment, what we like to do. Right? I'd love, like I said, I would love to get out here and tell everybody, amen, I love them to death. Know that I love you. You know what I mean? Fact. But at the same time, there's a lot that I don't love about what you're doing. There's a lot I don't love about how you moving. And right now, you ain't always making it easy on me or on yourself. Fact.
It was one piece I wanted to finish saying.
I apologize.
I just wanted to, I had to put the cap on what I was saying. This one piece it was really to build on what the sister was saying, and at the same time to bridge to what you're doing. Because I am who you are building. I am those guys.
Trust 100%.
And I'm telling you that the men, Anthony Shahi, Jamal Seward,
that's what's up.
and I can name a long list of other good brothers who done great work out here. They found me when I was a teenager.
Right.
And they didn't spend any more time with me than you do with those dudes. And I'm telling you that time was enough for them to adopt me into their fatherhood.
100%.
And I just had more than one.
Right. And I was careful to say fathers.
Yes,
when I said what I said, because trust me, the one that gave you your life,
yes, sir.
you owe him invaluably. You should never speak of him ill in any way, because ultimately that is where you get this life. Never speak of yourself in a diminishing way. But at the same time, there's not a man in this room who at some point should not impart some sort of, some energy that is positive to you, right? So if you're moving around, man, it's everybody's responsibility. Help that brother get to where he's going. You know what I mean? You ain't got to do it for him. And I don't just mean that, obviously, I speak to a lot of brothers, but I mean that for people. It is gender specific. You know what I mean? Forgive me.
We only got time for one more. She had her hand up first, right? We only have time for one more.
For the young lady.
Yes.
I just wanted to say that the work you're doing is so incredibly necessary. And as a black woman, excuse me, growing up, I have brothers, of course, and my dad. And in the dating scene, I was like, how do I be a partner to my black man? How do I build my black man and protect him in this world? And I think a lot of times there's issues with Black women coming into, he doesn't know enough to be ambitious, or he doesn't know enough to push himself in the direction that I see. And I'm dating someone right now who is didn't come from the same place I did. And there's a lot of things that he doesn't know, and there's a lot of things that I just look back and I'm like, these things that I learned in school that you didn't get the chance to growing up on the streets, like, if you would have met someone like you, where he would be now, even just that hour or just a minute to have another Black man, this is how you do this thing, this is how you can be more educated to go out and be hungry and to learn things for yourself. And now hearing that, I think what you're doing is so amazing. And you can't adopt everyone. And that's, it's just the truth. But there's one person who can change, and that person could change someone.
100%. It is a change factor, 100%. And I appreciate that. And on a humble, I think it isn't necessarily for me that I believe that I do something specifically that is uniquely different. And I think for me, like I said, I understand my own strengths and weaknesses, you know what I mean, and what my talents and gifts are. And one of those is the willingness to say out loud, I don't know everything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't know everything.
He comes to me a lot of times to ask me a lot of questions.
But that's what it is,
yeah.
Right? Like, all of us are in a room telling the truth, right? And I think that's mostly what you need. If you gather people in a space and you put them in and they go, hey, all we want is something positive and good to come from this, whatever that is for you, something beneficial will take place. So, no, I think for the young brothers, you gotta be okay failing forward and being wrong sometimes, right?
Come on,
and so when you okay being wrong and failing forward, you never embarrassed, right? I'm never embarrassed that I'm ignorant to something. Right? That's why that's why I say no. You are 100% right with what you're doing, with what you're saying to your man, and I think it's a beautiful place to exist one to another. So definitely my hats off to you. I appreciate the time. I appreciate the time. 100%. I would be willing to give all my cards to people who you could be a partner of support. Like I said, any partner that we could obviously make would be much appreciated. Thank you so much. I actually have.
We're gonna pass it out
I'm
again.
gonna pass my contact.
We're gonna pass it out again.
Yes,
there were several folks that came in after introductions. Now, if you do this right, I'm not gonna fuss at you. Okay? So I'm gonna if you came in late and did not get a chance, because you came in late. If you came in late and you did not introduce yourself, we're going to give you 15 seconds to say who you are, and then we're going to take a picture, and I'm out of here. So, if you came in late, we're going to start. We're going to give you a chance to.
Come on, I'm ready.
Oh, you ready? Okay. Right there.
Hi, guys. My name
Good
is
evening.
Portia Anderson. I am the wealth mindset strategist. I work with individuals and small businesses. I'm a full-time entrepreneur myself. My goal is really to empower women, to help them become full-time entrepreneurs, and to create a life that they love and deserve. So I'm so excited to be here with you all. Thank you.
Amen.
That's what's up.
Sis.
I'm Shannon Woodhouse. I'm whatever. All my background is auditing, accounting, and anything fun.
Awesome.
Hi, my name.
Go ahead.
It's okay.
No, go ahead.
Okay. My name is Charles Gladney, and I'm a LLC owner. Music.
Excellent.
But yes, sir. And that's basically what I just came down here to just be in the presence of like-minded individuals. You know what I'm saying? Hopefully to grow and learn from this, because I'm truly inspired by your story, and I'm inspired. Like, I'm from out there. Like you say, you from out there. Yeah. So topics and things that you were touching on, I could relate to.
No doubt.
You know what I'm saying? So I definitely would
No
look
doubt.
at this.
Let's do that.
More
So
interesting,
for real.
because I know a lot of people out there.
No, 100%.
Yes. And I want to commend you for what you do.
I appreciate you, brother.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
Awesome.
Brothers in the back, and then we come over to sisters. Introduce.
Introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Zai, and I'm an entrepreneur.
Shut up!
And I work for my family's company.
That's what we do.
That's what's up.
My name is Delbert Smith. Pretty much a serial.
Here we go.
My name is Delbert Smith. I'm pretty much a serial entrepreneur, musician. I'm a musician as well. Music is my passion. I go by El Guapo in the music world. I got my hands in many different avenues just to economically develop myself, so I can economically develop other people.
What's up?
Hi, my name is Wanda Davis. I am an author. First published book in 2019, first hottest release bestseller through Amazon with me. Ten other women, we collaborated and wrote a book about our kids being entrepreneurs. So my son is 15 years old. He's been an entrepreneur since he was 7. He took the concept from my math class and turned it into a business. And this is the proof of his first book for mathematic literacy that's going to be coming out at the end of this month. So I'm excited.
Did we miss anyone? Did everybody get a chance to? So we're over time. Just know that the Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face to shine upon you. May he give you peace.
Yes.
And your coming and your going.
Yes.
John 3:16. God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. Now, if you walk in front of the screen,